Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So as you can see here by this field center, I did participate in the Infinite Forbidden sneak peek this weekend. So this is going to be technically our last deck profile before the strike of Infinite Forbidden, and it will probably be the first deck profile post Infinite Forbidden as well, because I will show the changes that I would make to this main deck. I profiled, not profiled, I played Ritual Beast this past weekend. I played it at Thursday on Titan Games. I also casually played it on Saturday during the sneak peek. Back then it was post Infinite Forbidden, and as of the time of this recording on July 14th, I played at an icy hot Infinite Forbidden case tournament, which comprised of 36 players, and it was previous format before Infinite Forbidden. I actually made it all the way to top 4 with this strategy on that event. So I ended up with 2 boxes as part of my prizes. Shoutouts to EJ Gaming. They'll probably do like deck openings, or they'll do like in-depth like post Infinite Forbidden content, because most of our teammates are going to nationals, and I decided to give my pricing to them in order to help them with allocations of all the resources for that event. But yeah, without further ado, I will go through with the list. I'll talk about what happened in testing with the post Infinite Forbidden strategies, and I also will talk about the decks that I faced at the case tourney and how that led up to like the success of this strategy. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. 2 Elders, 3 Kanahawks, 3 Rampengus, 3 Laras, Lara, Wen, Winda, Paradolphin, Apelio. That's it for Ritual Beasts. Flag, Protoss, and now we have Corridor in the main deck. Noble Knights, Shield Bearer, Ghost Ogre, Snow Rabbit, Dimension Shifter. That's it for all the monsters. 3 Teleport, 3 Inheritance, 3 Talents, 3 Eclipse, and then for traps we have the 3 Imperms, the Steeds, and the Ambush. The main deck I think is 41 cards, if I'm not mistaken. Extra deck, we're still on the 2 Falcos, the 1 Red Tiari. IP is now in the site in the extra deck. SP, Apo, the Goddess, Banshee, Colossus, Apelio, Gaia Apelio, double Kanahawk, double Noku Drago. Side deck: Ash Blossom, Droll and Lockbird, Mind Control, Change of Heart, Duster, Called by, Evenly Mashed. Okay, so discussion time. Let's start with the main deck. There are a few changes you probably noticed. For those who did not notice the changes, I will talk about them. The first change is Ritual Beast Tamer Pilika is no longer in the main deck. I just realized that despite it being another name, it just was a little bit contrarian of just running the card if I didn't like open Inheritance or I just didn't open the card itself. Like it was just like a placeholder in the deck, or it's just like one of those win more cards. They just felt very unnecessary. It's not to say that Pilica is a bad card in the deck whatsoever. I think Pilica is excellent if you actually do have this room and space for it in the main deck. However, the way I have my main deck right now is very tight, and post Infinite Forbidden I did make a few changes. I did not want to go over 41 cards, and ultimately I just felt like it was just unnecessary. Another thing that we did that is kind of different is we're now playing Shield Bearer. Shield Bearer just acts as a fourth copy of Rampengu. It does lose to Droll and Loudbird, which is something to like be wary about, but we're not playing Pile of Prosperity in this deck, at least in this build, meaning that you want your build, your openers to be as consistent as possible in this deck, because Ritual Beast is a deck that is prone naturally to bricking. And since Rampengu is a one card starter, albeit not the best one unless you have Shifter, then just Shield Bearer having it become another copy of the Rampengu just pretty much made sense. I did draw it twice, and both games that I drew it, it helped me like start my combos and start my plays. The other thing that you noticed is how Corridor is now in the main deck alongside Protoss. Post Infinite Forbidden, we are going to move Protoss out of the main deck. This past weekend, I actually did not resolve Protoss once. Shoutouts to Jorge Pagan from Got Milk Gaming. One of the better players here in like Puerto Rico. He's the only duelist in the entire like case turning event where I did summon Protoss, and he just impermed it. So that's not to say Protoss is a bad card or anything. It's just that compared to Corridor, Protoss just underperformed this past weekend. And post Infinite Forbidden, Corridor is going to have significantly more value than Protoss will because of the importance of Colossus. So moving forward, I will probably move Protoss to the side deck, and I will keep Corridor in the main deck. So another card that I think will be moved away from the main deck as well, or at least like heavily debated on, would be Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This card did not do a lot this past weekend. If you know about the deck building process behind this card in the main deck, is here mainly here because it is another card for emergency teleport. It is a card that helps you like fight against Appaloosa. But as of late, I just didn't find myself needing this card, and there is one replacement that I will play this card for that actually holds a really good amount of value. So I'm just gonna put this right here. Outside of that, I don't think there are many changes in the main deck. I think the main deck is pretty much the same as always, outside of those changes that you've already seen. So did any card perform differently this week compared to weeks prior? I already spoke about Corridors like Roll in the main deck, as well as Shield Bearer. But what other cards are like performed differently this week from other weeks? The Pedalfin was the MVP of the entire weekend. I think Pedalfin like overperformed this past week, and I do encourage Ritual Beast players to actually try to find the spot for this card. Like against Snake Eyes, it helped me like fight against like their full board, just like baiting like their IPs or baiting like other ways of getting rid of Flamberge. I did bounce a Flamberge with this. I also bounced a Silantis. I bounced a Floodgate. Because I did face Runic Stun this past weekend, so this like just applied pressure. Since this doesn't destroy, but it can remove the fountain without destroying. This is just a card that people have to be worried about. What other things I did bounce with this in the past weekend? I think that's it. But I did bounce a Red Brum against like the Chimera branded opponent. That also was very pivotal. So yeah, Pedalfin really did well. They really did a good job. We are not playing like Cosmic Cyclone or like targeting removal cards in like main or side. So just having a searchable spot removal card just really proved it's very, very helpful. I did not draw Shifter that much this weekend. Every time I did draw Shifter, I actually like it really just overperformed for me. But I faced 4 Snake Eyes this weekend, and I only shifted one of them. And yeah, I don't think I have to explain if I shifted won me that game. It kind of did. It was a very funny approach because the way I used my shifter is I waited until the Snake Eye, the Veilstar, and the Flamberge were on the board instead of the level 1 monsters to avoid like them just summoning Fuko and having a way to just like solidify their board and give themselves follow-up. So yeah, this is just going to stay in the main deck. There is one card that we're going to be playing in this deck that probably like won't work well with Shifter, but I still think Shifter is just too powerful to just ignore, especially since we're in Fiendsmith format right now. Another card that overperformed for me this weekend, and I'm really surprised that it did, was Ritual Beast Ambush. Not many Ritual Beast players are on this card, but there was one match against Snake Eyes where they broke my simple board and then they solidified they made their end board, and I managed to crack back and fight against their end board because of Ambush. Ambush also helped me not getting OTK'd, because when they went for the Zelantis play and they tried to Zelantis in the battle phase to pop my cards, what I ended up doing is I flipped Ambush, and with Ambush I summoned Winda. And not only did I summon Winda, I already had Lara in the graveyard, so I banished the Lara to prevent the Zelantis destruction, and then the Lara gave me another monster. And it pretty much became a very tough time for your opponent, my opponent, because they knew that if they get rid of the Winda would just summon a big threat to just like get rid of their board, or it would just summon a fusion or a link monster to just keep giving me more monsters and prevent me to getting OTK'd. And this deck has significantly powerful level follow-up, because if you get your Lara into rotation again, you can just banish the Lara for the ulti Noko Drago, and then just trigger the Lara, and then you just recover your board again without wasting any cards on the board or in your hand. That did come up multiple times, and it did won me like at least 2 to 3 games. So for the time being, I'd say Ambush pretty much performed very well this weekend. Another card that really did well was Book of Eclipse. Shoutouts to Jeremy. He was my dinosaur opponent. So the matches that I faced during the weekend was Jubel, 3 Snake Eyes, Dinosaurs, Runic Stun. And against my dinosaur opponent and against Runic Stun, this card overperformed. So against Runic Stun, this came up because my opponent had Skill Drain and they had the Super Grave of the Ancient Organism, and that card is a really hard for Ritual Beast to play around. So what ended up happening was I used the Pedalfin to bounce the Floodgate with the help of Book of Eclipse, and then I just tried to push through their entire board and just OTK'd them on the spot, which ended up happening. So I was thankful for that. My dinosaur opponent also broke through my board and they tried to OTK me with Superconductor Tyranno, and then I just flipped it with Book of Eclipse during the battle phase, and yeah, it was a wrap. I dodged Nibiru's, I dodged Imperms, I dodged Veilers, I dodged Mourners. Yeah. So shoutouts to Book of Eclipse. I am going to move one copy of Book of Eclipse here in this pile, right here, because I will be talking about the changes I will be making post Infinite Forbidden. But yeah, I think that's it for the main deck. There's not many other cards that actually did different this week, more than like they did on weeks prior. Let's talk about the extra deck real quick. As you guys probably noticed, Typhon is no longer in our extra deck. Instead of Typhon, we replaced it with IP Masquerena. I just wanted another form of interruption during my end boards that just not involved Steeds, Eclipse, or Floodgate monsters like Protoss and Colossus. And IP actually did really well for me. I actually won my dinosaur match because of IP. Because my opponent had Miscellaneousaurus, and I just literally just went IP into SP to banish the Misk from their graveyard. So that won me a game. Against my Runic opponent, I went IP into SP to get rid of Runic Fountain, which also did well because they tried to contest against the SP, and then I just dodged like their interruption, like their freezing curses and their flashing fires. So on that regard, like the IP SP combo just really worked well. Another thing about IP that is relevant is if you end on IP and ulti Common Falcos, like if you end on these two and you have Book of Eclipse, like you have a guaranteed SP line even on the Book of Eclipse, which is very neat, and did came up. I did not summon Goddess once. I summoned Gaia Paleo twice, once against Runic, one against Dinosaurs. Thanks to Ambush, this card became like the third best card of the weekend. So shoutouts to Ulti Nuki Drago. I already spoke about IP. I didn't summon Appaloosa that much, surprisingly. So if this card ends up in the Forbidden list, like honestly, good riddance. I'm not gonna miss this card. So let's see at what point we are at. So let's talk about the changes post Infinite Forbidden. I don't think I need to share the side deck that much. I guess I should talk about the side deck before we go to that subject. I did not resolve Evenly once, so I don't know how I feel about Evenly right now. I do believe that we're going to enter a format where board breakers are going to be a little bit more awkward, and we'll talk about that probably in another video or later on here. I'm not playing Coldby in the main deck because I just wanted better defensive cards or better utility cards, and this card is just very weak going second. Yes, you can stop Flamberge and you can stop Promethean Fire Princess, but like their layered forms of interruptions are just a little bit too varied to make this card just play a significant role. You want breakers that just try to force your opponent to like use their resources instead of breakers that just punishes your opponent for using their resources, if that makes sense. The control cards did overperform. I actually won one of my Snake Eye matches because of Change of Heart and Mind Control. So, like, I don't know how good these would be post Infinite Forbidden with like the Fiendsmith boards, but as of right now, I am a fan of these. I do want to shift Droll and Lockbird to the main deck. Right now the deck is kind of tight for space, and I don't want to prioritize Droll in my main deck just yet, but definitely in my side deck. And I do encourage everybody that this card should be your main or side deck in this format. I only drew Ash once, I think, and I don't remember if it was against Runic or not. So I don't know how I feel about Ash Blossom, but you just have to play it because Branded is one of your worst matchups, and you know you kind of have to check the Branded Fusion. I think that's it. I don't think there's not much to talk about the side deck. There is one card that I'm probably gonna take out, and it would be Called by the Grave. This card just didn't perform well for me, even if I went first. Okay, so changes. We're going to take out Called by the Grave entirely, most likely. We're probably shifting Ghost Ogre to the side deck, either Ghost Ogre or Protoss. Most likely Protoss is going to move to the side deck. And we're probably going to trade these three cards for one of the new cards that just came out in Infinite Forbidden, and I did test this card a fair amount, and it did really, really well. And that card is Dominus Purge. So for those who don't know what this card does, essentially if your opponent activates any card that involves adding, you negate that effect, and if you have a trap card in your graveyard, you can destroy the card that you're negating. If your opponent controls any card, you can activate this card from your hand, but if you do that, you can no longer activate fire, water, and dark monsters for the rest of the duel. In this deck, the only dark monsters that you really care about are probably IPSP, Protoss, and Dimensional Shifter. So outside of those cards, I don't think there's no warranty for playing this. I did test it a fair amount, and it did really, really well. I played against the Yubel Fiendsmith deck, I played against White Forest, and I played against the Snake Eye Fiendsmith deck a fair amount of times, and this card did very well against those matchups. So in the future, it might not be 3, but at the moment I am testing the waters. I want to see how well I can perform with this card, and since you already play Imperm in your list and you play like other normal trap cards, this will up the value of how powerful the Dominus Purge is. The more copies of Dominus Purge you have, the more powerful the card becomes, because one Purge would just do more than the next Purge afterwards. So yeah, moving forward, I think this is the right move. I will make another discussion talking about Dominus Purge and the new Dominus trap that just is a parallel to this one. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this video informative to your liking and understanding. I do want to play the Centurion deck updated. I did test out Memento as well. I also tested out like a few other strategies, but I think out of everything that I currently own this format, Ritual Beast is like one of the decks that I kinda like the best, especially since not many people are very well versed on how to like stop the deck. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this video to your liking. Like you found this informative. More Infinite Forbidden content coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.